Mary Breckinridge was born February 17, 1881, in Memphis, Tennessee. She was the granddaughter of Vice President John Breckinridge, who served under President Buchanan. She was also the daughter of a U.S. congressman. Mary was born into a wealthy and very influential family. As a young girl, she traveled between her family estates located in Mississippi, Kentucky, Russia, Western Europe, and New York. As a teenager, she attended boarding schools in both Switzerland and Connecticut. She traveled extensively and had a first-class education. She was very familiar with a variety of cultures and lifestyles. In 1904, at the age of 23, Mary married her first husband. He succumbed to appendicitis a short 3 years later. After the death of her first husband, Mary decided to focus on helping others. She soon moved to New York and attended St. Luke's Hospital Training School, where she graduated in 1910 as a registered nurse. While in school, she met her second husband. They soon married and together had a son and a daughter. Mary's daughter died a couple hours after birth and her son at the age of 2. Following the deaths of her children, Mary decided to dedicate her life to improving the health of women and children. In 1918, Mary headed overseas to France to join the American Committee for Devastated France. Working with this committee, Mary organized a visiting nurse program to help the French refugees of World War I. The program trained women as nurse midwives to provide care for areas in France in which hospitals and doctors were scarce. Thinking of the needs of her home country, Breckinridge referred to the program as, quote, the logical response to the needs of young children in rural America, end quote. Mary returned to America in 1921 to study public health at Columbia University. After realizing there were no college programs available to women in the study of midwifery in the United States, she traveled back to London to obtain her midwifery certificate. In 1925, she returned to America and began her work in rural Kentucky. She figured if a nurse midwife program could work in rural Kentucky, it could work anywhere. She established the Kentucky Committee for Mothers and Babies, which is later known as the Frontier Nursing Services. The headquarters for the Frontier Nursing Services was located in Hayden, Kentucky, and provided services for an area of about 700 square miles. Southeast Kentucky was a remote Appalachian region of the state. It was full of mountains, a few roads, and no doctors. In the 1900s, this region of the country accounted for the highest birth rate as well as the highest rate of infant mortality. For every 100,000 live births, over 800 resulted in maternal death, and 10,000 out of every 100,000 children died before their first birthday. Mary found that pregnant women in this region often relied on granny women, who were illiterate midwives who often learned the trade from their mothers or grandmothers. Granny women often relied on folklore and invasive procedures to aid women during childbirth. Newborns were often dosed with castor oil, catnip tea, and their navels greased with lard, and then dressed with a scorched rag. The lack of medical care available in this rural part of the country attributed significantly to the welfare of both women and children.